Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to another episode of Mazda Truth Ace Attorney Investigations. In the last episode, we talked a whole bunch to Detective Bat and found out a whole bunch of information about the KG8 incident and the Yatagarasu, Mr. Faraday, himself, Rel, you, everybody. And now we are going to be talking to him one more time about, his own movements in lobby number 1 when he heard the murder going on in lobby number 2. So, yeah, also we found out that the knife is actually the Yatagarasu's key, so that was a pretty cool thing to find out. But anyway, let's go ahead and get going. I was in lobby number 1, talking with you. We were talking about some trivial things. I heard the gunshot, right before the trial was about to reconvene. When we heard it, you and I immediately dashed out into the hallway together. I saw Gumshoe goofing around there, and then we all ran into lobby number 2. It sounds like the exact same story he told us before. Indeed, however, I feel like we have yet to draw out all the information that we can. Okay, so pressing. I was hoping you could expand on what exactly you were discussing with Miss Yew. Trivial stuff. It was nothing important. That's for me to decide. Shut the fuck up. Alright, I suppose that's for him to decide. Moving on then. Until you heard the gunshot, did you notice anything else that was out of the ordinary? I didn't hear any other strange sounds until that gunshot. If the gunshot Detective Bad heard was really the one from the murder, that would give that other piece of evidence an entirely different meaning. I ask that you please amend your testimony with that statement just now. Sure. I didn't hear any other strange sounds until that gunshot. Hold on. I'm assuming it's this. Let's go. Okay. Detective Bad, does this balloon fragment remind you of anything? It's the same color as the one Kay was holding. Oh, so you knew about that girl's balloon? Yeah, I was sitting with her up in the gallery. During the recess, just before we split up, I filled that balloon up for her. Well, as you may have already surmised, this piece did indeed come from Kay's balloon. So, what about the balloon? I wonder if you might remember hearing this balloon pop at some point. What are you getting at? This fragment was found in the hallway right in front of lobby number 2. Furthermore, it was the sound of this balloon popping that the judge mistook as a gunshot. Oh, so the sound that the judge heard was not actually a gunshot, huh? On top of that, His Honor said he heard the balloon pop about 20 minutes before the trial was to reconvene. Yes, which means that His Honor heard the balloon pop in the hallway when you were in lobby number 1, Detective Bad. And if you were in lobby number 1 at that time, you were close enough that you should have heard the balloon popping as well. So? Don't give me a so. We just proves that there is a flaw in your testimony. The crackling of the truth is louder than the sound of your sweet naivete cracking. And since you kids don't seem to know, let me fill you in on something. Did you ever stop to think why the doors and walls of this place seem so rugged? That's because they were designed to keep secrets from being leaked. What is that supposed to mean? The doors and walls are super thick. The window panes are double layered. To top it all off, even the curtains are made of a special sound-absorbing material. Then you mean... Since I was shut up inside lobby number 1, there was no way I could have heard that sound. No! Ugh. I knew that's what he was going to say.
Then that means that Scrub-Face's testimony is completely useless. If the rooms are soundproof, then of course he wouldn't hear any sign of a struggle.
Ugh. That's also why it's... Oh, wrong voice. That's also why it's only natural that I didn't hear the balloon popping. Now, do you get it, kids?
Miles, I thought we were the ones who were supposed to be finding flaws in his logic, not the other way around.
The other way around? It's not possible to hear the sound of a balloon popping if one were in lobby number 1. However, if we examine the situation in reverse, a person standing in the hallway should not be able to hear the real gunshot either. And yet, Detective Gumshoe claims to have heard it while he was standing in the hallway. Detective Bad, if that is the case, how exactly did you hear the gunshot? What do you mean, how? I just did. It would appear that you have yet to realize the contradiction in your own words. Oh, how so? If the rooms are as soundproof as you say they are, then how did the sound of the gunshot enter your ears? I see what you mean. I guess I'm more out of it from Faraday's murder than I thought.
Which means what exactly, Miles? In the end, what does it all boil down to?
It boils down to this. There must be a reason as to how Detectives Bad and Gumshoe heard a gunshot they theoretically couldn't have.
It looks like we need to examine the state of the crime scene again, huh?
The state of the crime scene? Wait, can it be? It's that ultra-strong perfume Yew wears. She spilled some of it.
Ugh! It's way too noisy! The surveillance video? How could the piece of evidence just disappear? Where did it go?
Okay. Wait, dissipating the smell. Lobby number 2 window. Missing evidence. Very loud television. Okay. It's simply not possible for the killer to have escaped through barred windows. And yet, the fragrance of the perfume managed to escape from defendant lobby number 1. Of course! Incorporeal things can move freely through these open barred windows. Okay. Open windows. The criminal wouldn't have made it through, but what about incorporeal things? Missing evidence. Very loud television. Very loud television? Open windows? Okay. Now then, what else besides a smell can go both in and out of an open barred window? The answer is sound! So no matter how careful the killer was, if the windows were open, the jig would be up. And since the windows in both defendant lobby number 1 and the hallway were open, that explains how the sound of a gunshot could be heard in both locations. Can we... The missing piece of evidence is a video that shows the moment in which Mr. Rell killed the embassy staff member. The sound of the gunshot left quite an impression on me when it was first played during the trial. The video should have been returned to Mr. Faraday's evidence bag for the recess and brought back here. If it disappeared after that time, then it's possible that the tape is still here in the room. Eureka! The evidence that the missing evidence created for me is the gunshot sound that no one should have been able to hear in the first place.
Miles, what have you been thinking about? Stop wasting time thinking and let's start looking again.
It's not a waste of time to think, for I figured out where we should look.
And where would that be?
I believe we should examine the television. The TV? Well, you kids have fun. Go ahead and examine whatever you like. Here we go. No, that's not... Okay, I understand, Edworth. Earlier when Detective Gumshoe touched this, it made a most terrible racket.
You mean when Scruffy turns the television on, right?
Actually, come to think of it, I don't think Detective Gumshoe actually touched the television at all. Furthermore, it seemed more like when a video feed suddenly stops. At least it did to me.
I wonder why that is.
Can we... Okay. It's a video player, and there seems to be a videotape inside.
Looks like it. The tape must have stopped on its own when it reached its end.
The tape? Could it not be the missing surveillance tape?
I suppose, but...
Detective Bad, would it be alright with you if I verified the contents of this video? Sure, knock yourself out.
Alright then, let's rewind this and see what we have.
If I remember correctly, the footage of Rell killing the embassy staff member should be at about the 30-minute mark for the start of the tape. Understood. This should be about right. Now then, let's see.
This is the footage of Mr. Rell shooting the embassy staff member.
I knew it. The missing piece of evidence. The surveillance video was here all along. This sound. What's the meaning of this? It appears that Detective Bad has figured out the true source of the gunshot he heard. With this, I think we can figure out the trick behind this double murder.
Do you mean that you figured it all out, Zen?
Yes. All I have to do now is show what the gunshot detectives Bad and Gumshoe heard was. And through where they heard it from.
Fine. In that case, show me what you deduced.
Now, to show what the gunshot detectives Bad and Gumshoe heard was, and through where they heard it from. I won't press until it's ready. If the door and windows to the crime scene, namely this room that we're in, were closed, the killer could have used the gun and no one would have been the wiser.
That's true. This courthouse does seem to be well designed for such a thing, as it were.
However, what happened in reality was, Detective Gumshoe, Detective Bad, and Miss Yew, all three of them heard the gunshot.
Well, the windows in lobby number 1, number 2, and the hallway were open, so naturally the people in those locations could hear it.
Ah, but then why would the criminal open the window in the first place?
To allow the gunshot to be heard, I suppose.
Correct. That's the only logical conclusion we can draw from this.
But why was that necessary in the first place? I want a real answer, Miles. I demand satisfaction.
Very well. I believe that the killer wanted to manipulate our perception of a certain fact. What was it that the killer wanted to manipulate our perception of? The killer wanted to fabricate the time of death to their precise wishes, and they used the gunshot in the surveillance video to do so.
So that's why the tape was left running.
You mean, the gunshot I heard was from this video? Yes, which means that the murders really occurred at an earlier time than I thought. It must have been during the recess, but before Detective Gumshoe was on guard duty. Someone who has no alibi for that time period, and planned this crime out in advance. That person is not the real killer. Is not the real killer. Dang. Mr. Edgeworth. Yes, what is it? Miss Yew is asking for you. She's in the courtroom. She says that she's identified the murder, but that she wants to clarify something.
Looks like Miss Yew is still investigating something.
Understood. Please tell her that I will be right over. I'll come along. I want to hear what she has to say. It would appear that the time has come to uncover the truth. Contrary to popular belief, we're actually gonna keep going. September 10th, 6:15 p.m., District Court, Courtroom Number 3. Kay, what are you doing here?
Oh, hello, mister. I'm still investigating.
Well, the object you're looking for has already... Kay, don't mind him. Please continue with your investigation.
Okay, you got it.
Detective Bad, haven't we already found what you were looking for? If it means I can keep her in the dark just a little longer, any little task will do.
Oh, you're more sympathetic than I thought.
I've been waiting for you, Edgeworth. I've also been waiting for the moment in which you can finally lay this case to rest.
The moment at which we can finally lay this case to rest.
Wasn't that when we placed Detective Gumshoe under arrest? I think we've more than solved this case already. Don't you?
We'll see. It all depends on whether or not your logic holds.
Oh, I see we even have a viewer in the gallery. And why, even Mr. Bad is here.
A viewer in the gallery? I'm hardly just a bystander.
I have a duty to see this case through to the end, no matter how it turns out.
Oh? Is that right? Anyway, I thought you might like to hear what I've slaved away to find out. I've taken statements on every single person's movements during the time when our little suspect was in the hallway. I also confirmed that there is no possible route of escape from lobby number 2. Therefore, the killer must without a doubt be Detective Gumshoe.
And that's all you have?
Yeah. That's all there is to my conclusion, and this case.
Sorry, but I beg to differ. In a trial, there is always time for a rebuttal, and we are standing in a court of law. It'd be more than appropriate to follow the rules of court in this case, don't you think?
How absolutely like a rookie to think such a thing. But alright, I'll play along and give you a proper testimony.
If my logic is correct, then I've already won. All I have to do now is prove it. By showing who the real killer is.
Everyone, sans the suspect, has an alibi for when the gun went off. Furthermore, the areas around the crime scene have all been thoroughly investigated, right? I also confirmed that there is no possible escape room from lobby number 2, which leaves us with one unmistakable conclusion, that Detective Gumshoe is the killer. Now that you have your testimony, I expect a good rebuttal, Edgeworth.
But of course. There is no need to confront her logic head-on right now. I should instead focus on drawing out any trump card she has up her sleeve.
Damn it.
The suspect? But I thought Detective Gumshoe's alibi has already been proven.
Are you joking, Edgeworth?
I assure you, this is no joke.
Look, I know you heard from the judge earlier that the detective was in the hallway with Mr. Faraday's daughter eating a Swiss roll.
Yes, that is correct.
But see, that was 20 minutes before the real gunshot went off, right? And the problem is there's no one else that can corroborate what he did since the snacking.
I see she's done her research well, which means that I should focus on drawing out whatever trump card she's withholding. Whether they have been thoroughly investigated or not is for me to decide.
The scrunched eyebrows and lines of your forehead are back. Anyway, even if you believe it hasn't been exhaustive, the crime scene, lobby number 2, has no way out other than the hallway Detective Gumshoe was standing in. And because he claimed to be there, that makes him the only possible suspect.
But isn't it also possible that someone escaped through a window and into the garden?
That's the first place everyone looked silly. The police aren't a bunch of lazy bums. They looked into every possibility, you know? Isn't that right, Mr. Bad?
Yeah. There wasn't a scrap of evidence to suggest someone used one of the windows. There also weren't any footprints or anything in the courtyard garden. I suppose they really did check everything that could be relevant to the case. Damn it. Are you absolutely positive that there are no possible routes of escape?
Of course I'm sure.
And why are you so certain?
This is a courthouse, the place where criminals are brought to be judged. If there was an escape route, I'm pretty sure every criminal would be using it to escape. It's just common sense. Miles Edgeworth, I suggest you use a bit more of it in the future. Ugh!
You may think it's unshakable, but to me there are still too many unanswered questions. For example, who was it that placed the gun in Mr. Faraday's hand?
But you're the only one still wondering that. Detective Gumshoe probably had no idea which hand Mr. Faraday used to write with. Even if you know someone, it doesn't mean you'll know which hand they write with, right? I mean, I certainly don't care about that sort of thing.
I'm not about to let her get a rise out of me with such a flippant statement. I suppose we've really reached the end now. I already have my trump card ready. All that remains is to play it. But before I do, I think I should inquire into a little something about her argument. You said earlier that you confirmed the alibis of every person other than the suspect. However, I don't recall either Francisco or myself speaking with you about the subject.
But there were witnesses. For you, there's your mentor who gave you an alibi.
I see.
As for the little Missy, she came to the courthouse during the recess and was stopped by a security guard at a door to the hallway. She gave him quite a whipping for that, or so I heard. I'm the daughter of Manfred von Karma, and I will not be forcibly stopped by a guard or a bailiff or anyone else.
Wait, so basically the only reason Francisca bothered to show up today was because she found out that I was to be the replacement prosecutor? By the way, Miss Yew, what about everyone else's alibis before Detective Gumshoe was assigned to guard duty?
What about him?
Have you looked into what people were doing during that span of time?
What kind of an idiot do you take me for? Doesn't matter when the killer went into lobby number 2. From the time we heard the gunshot to the time Mr. Bad and I arrived on the scene as we dashed from lobby number 1, the only person who could have committed the crime was Detective Gumshoe.
Yes, let's talk about when you and Detective Bad heard that gunshot, shall we? I suppose that if we go by your logic, then Detective Gumshoe is the only one. However, what if the crime had occurred at an entirely different time than when that gunshot you heard went off? What then? That gunshot was a trap meant to manipulate our perception of when the crime...
Sadly, your explanation is very lacking, Mr. Edgeworth. The gunshot we heard in lobby number 1, care to explain how that could have been fabricated?
That tape? Yes, it's exactly what you think it is. This is a surveillance tape of Mr. Rell the prosecution presented in today's trial. This was found loaded into the video player in lobby number 2. That was connected to the large television that had its volume turned all the way up.
You can't honestly mean that the sound we heard was the gunshot in the video.
Ah, but I do, which leads me to my next point. The murders occurred much earlier than when anyone else heard the gunshot. That's the only thing I can think of, too. After committing double homicide, the killer took the surveillance video out from Mr. Faraday's evidence bag, turned on the television's volume all the way up, and left the video to play. If played from the beginning, it would take 30 minutes or so for the gunshot sound to come on. And since we now know that this method of time manipulation is possible, it opens up the possibility that the killer is someone other than Detective Gumshoe.
Sounds from a television don't amount to much here. But of course, Mr. Prosecutor Edgeworth and Little Miss Von Karma already knew that much from the very beginning, right? Of course we knew, didn't we, Miles?
Yes, of course. We know about the soundproof quality of this courthouse's rooms. Of course, I'm not about to admit we had no idea until only a little while ago. Shh, it's okay.
That's right. And if the rooms are soundproof, then we should not have been able to hear it. And yet we heard the gunshot clear as day. And that's it. End of story.
But it's not. How should I explain why she was able to hear a gunshot from a soundproof room? There is actually one common point between lobby number 1 and lobby number 2. And it is that despite the fact that both rooms have air conditioners installed, a window was open in each. Now we know that the window in lobby number 2 was opened by the killer. However, a window in lobby number 1 was also opened.
It's probably just coincidence that they were both open at the time.
It was no mere coincidence, I assure you. Why was the window open in lobby number 1? The answer is that a certain person did something to cause the window to be opened, and the person who triggered that action, that person is the real guilty party. The real killer in this double murder is... shit. Callisto Yew. Miss Callisto Yew. I hereby formally indict you of the murder of Mr. Faraday and Mr. Rill.
What? You indict me? Are you serious, Miles? Why do you think she's the killer?
I don't understand her motive just yet, but of course I'm serious, because she is the only one who could have done it. Well, Miss Yew, do you still feel like laughing now?
Of course I do, Mr. Edgeworth.
My argument must not be tight enough yet.
Although I never thought things would spiral into this. But I'll have you know I'm enjoying this dance quite a bit. I guess this means it's time for my own rebuttal now, right? You argue that the window was open. However, do you have proof that it was I who did that? Furthermore, do you have proof that the tape was used in committing the crime? Frankly, I'm shocked at you for going around and accusing people of murder like this, especially with logic as full of holes as yours.
This is where it really starts. I mustn't let my guard down for even a second, or the truth will be blown away. Now is the time to put the patented Von Karma perfect proof to the test.
You argue that the window was open, however, do you have proof it was I who did that?
Evidence? All I need to do is have some prints analyzed and we know straight away.
Be my guest.
She sounds as though she has the room to maneuver, which means even if we were able to lift prints, they'd only show that it was someone else, but why that someone else was forced to open the window? That's simple logic. Why don't I try presenting that piece of evidence? I have nothing to lose.
What's wrong? Scrunched eyebrows, lines on your forehead. They're all back. More importantly, are you gonna be okay not running a fingerprint analysis?
Yes, I'll be fine.
Oh, well in that case, I'll just continue with my testimony, alright?
No, you will not. I'm sure you've seen this before, haven't you, Miss Yew?
Edgeworth, I never knew you were into wearing that kind of perfume. It's not exactly what I'd recommend for boys, you know.
This isn't mine!
That's right, it's mine, and I received it from Detective Bad, you see?
Miss Yew, you can pretend all you like, but we know at least this much for sure. That this bottle of perfume was given to Detective Bad by you.
Because it gets really strong really fast. So, what about the perfume?
While you were in lobby number 1, you made a big show of spilling some of this perfume. That's according to Detective Bad.
Oh, I know.
You also knew that if you spilled it, he would naturally move to open a window.
Come now, I've already told you that's all just a big coincidence. After we opened the window in lobby number 1, I just left it open, you know? So maybe it was just dumb luck that we heard the gunshot through the window.
The timing of when you were going to spill the perfume is something you could control, and the most important fact about this case is when people were made to hear the shot. Furthermore, it would have been pointless if you didn't have an alibi for yourself at the time. You mean, Miss Yew, you were the one who called Detective Bad into lobby number 1 when you saw him bring Detective Gumshoe into the hallway. Is that correct? All of today's premeditated events could only have been thought up by you, Miss Yew.
Ugh. You accuse me of murder on the fact that I spilled a little perfume? Well, allow me to say this much. I couldn't have killed Mr. Faraday.
Would you care to testify as to why?
Look, I've had a lot of fun today, really. But I grow weary of this game of cat and mouse. Let's make this the last testimony and wrap up this absurd case once and for all. Accusing someone of murder over a spilled bottle of perfume is a bit over the top, but I suppose forgery of evidence is to be expected of a disciple of Von Karma. In any case, it simply could not have been me who killed Mr. Faraday. After all, I don't even know where the knife that was used to kill him came from. Miles, her testimony is flawless.
Yes, but no matter what sort of trick she may try to pull, she won't escape me. And if I'm lacking in information, I'll just draw it out of her.
And
that is where we're gonna stop for today. Roll the end card.
Objection! You haven't hit like and subscribe yet! Hold it! You forgot to ring the bell to get notified whenever I upload! Take that! Click here to watch more of my videos! Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next